Ladies and gentlemen,
you are now about to witness
the journey that is the Life Choices Podcast.
Yeah!
Welcome back, everyone, to the Life Choices Podcast, where we discuss mindset, success, good, and the tough aspects of going after your passions. On today's episode, we have Pete Casso.
Yo.
I'm saying that right?
Pete Casso.
Pete
like
Casso.
Picasso, but my name's Pete.
And that makes sense. So you're an artist.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Amazing. So, Pete, I brought you here today to talk about a couple of things. Some of you who may have followed my social before have seen that I've been on Pete's podcast.
Yeah.
And you want to tell a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, so the Millennial Mentality is the name of the podcast you came on that I do with my buddy Nick Agnelli. And, we're just two young guys that own businesses for ourselves, and we wanted to kind of similar to, I think, what we're going to talk about today, kind of share like the trials and tribulations of, going through it, making mistakes, learning from those mistakes, and kind of realizing that there's a lot of roadblocks on the pursuit of your dreams.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And being that you are an artist that I've mentioned, a tattoo artist, now 3 years going. And let's talk about how that started off.
Sure. I'd been an artist my whole life. Grew up drawing and painting as a kid. There's a school here called Bach Middle School of the Arts where you audition to get in. And they have different majors that kids will go for, like theater and vocal and instruments and things like that. But I went for visual arts.
Okay.
There's a little audition involved. You send in a portfolio. You do a live drawing in front of the art teachers there. And then going to that school, instead of taking normal electives like you would take, gym and shit at other classes, I took fine arts classes. And so I got, a lot of really good knowledge and education when it came to practicing art during that time in my life. Not really knowing what I was going to apply it to. I didn't have a plan as a kid to become a tattoo artist, but I'm grateful that I had that experience because now, fast forward 10, 15 years later, I'm using that stuff every day. But then I went to a regular public high school because I wanted to play sports. I was also an athlete, and the Dreyfus High School of the Arts doesn't really have much of a sports program at all.
Gotcha.
And that's when, my art practice fell off a little bit. I kind of stopped practicing art every day because it wasn't a part of my curriculum anymore. I was doing, graffiti and doodling on math homework and shit like that, but not a lot of formal practice. And then graduating high school, I got into the restaurant business and hospitality world and did that for about 7-8 years. And when COVID kind of started to happen, really kind of was rethinking my career path and what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Because up until that point, I thought it was going to be hospitality. I thought I was going to be opening a restaurant or a nightclub of some kind. And that was really what my entire life revolved around up until that point. And I was getting a lot of tattoos. At that point, I had sleeves, and, I'd always been into getting tattoos, but for whatever reason, it had never crossed my mind to be doing tattoos. And, peak COVID times, I shouldn't say peak COVID times, but right in the beginning, which, felt like the scariest part of it because there was a lot of unknowns then. For whatever reason, I went to go get my hands and knuckles tattooed. And at this time, the hospitality world was really weird. I was part restaurant and part nightlife is what I operated. And there was basically no nightlife and hardly any restaurant at this time. This is when everyone was doing takeout only. And so I had been on salary for the previous 8 years. We all lost our salaries. I was grateful to still have my job because we laid off almost everybody. But they kept me on. I just didn't have my salary anymore. They were kind of just paying us what they could pay us. And, I was just kind of rethinking, if this is really what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And for some reason at that exact same time, I went and got my hands and knuckles tattooed. I don't know why, while I was rethinking my career path, I thought it was a good idea to do that, but I did. And I went to a place called Unforgettable Ink down in Coral Springs, which is no longer open, but the guy, Mike Rodriguez, that owned that place, was a good friend of mine. And I went down to get that work done. And he had just gotten this tattoo, basically on his forehead. Not literally the middle of his forehead, but along his hairline.
Okay.
And it's this crazy gothic-looking font that you can hardly read. It looks really cool, but I still don't know what it says on his forehead to this day. I felt like it was rude to ask. but it looks cool, you know?
Right.
And so he tagged the artist that did it, and I was looking at this guy's page, and all this guy did is this crazy Gothic font. He had like a shitload of followers and clearly made a career for himself off just doing this font that he makes up. It's not a stencil. He just draws it on, and he does this crazy font and made a whole career out of it. And for whatever reason, it clicked in my head when I saw this guy's page, like, oh shit, like I could definitely do this. If there's enough people getting tattoos that this guy can do just this specialty font that only a handful of people.
He just does the one.
He doesn't do roses. He doesn't do regular script. He doesn't do anything else except for his specific font. That's his whole page.
Wow.
And, you know, it just clicked in my mind then that, you know, I've got this artistic background. I could probably learn how to do this. And even if I only have my certain niche that I follow, I could, you know, this guy made it work doing that. Right. I could probably do it too. So Mike is doing my tattoos that day, and I kind of asked him, you know, if I wanted to get into this, you know, how would I do that? Where would I start? And he laughed a little bit, and he's like, "Can you draw?" And I told him everything I just told you about growing up, and he was like, "Oh, dude, well, if you can draw, you can learn how to do this. Someone just needs to teach you how to use the machines and the techniques, and come by the shop whenever you want. I'll teach you."
Wow.
And so I just started going down to a shop, making the drive down to Coral Springs a couple days a week for the next couple months. And watching him work, asking questions. I'd go home and obsess over YouTube videos and just watch hours and hours of YouTube videos every day. And I started buying equipment slowly. And I also had a crazy roommate at the time. Shout out to Kevin. He let me practice on him.
Wow.
Like all the time. Like every night it felt like we
Free
were doing
tattoos.
a new tattoo on him. Yeah, right. He got a full leg sleeve real quick. And to be honest, like I thought I was going to be practicing on myself for a long time. That's what like a lot of up and coming artists do is you practice on yourself to get the feel for it and like know that you're not pushing too hard because you'll feel when you're pushing too hard.
I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, so my thighs are covered in tattoos that I did on myself, and that's kind of most people's way of starting out. But my very first tattoo I ever did on skin was on Kevin.
Wow.
He came home from work one night. He was managing Bradley's downtown at the time.
Oh, so he knows our boy Steiny.
Oh yeah, bro. He's Mike Steiny's the man. He came home late from work one night, and there's a package at the door, and he brings it inside. He's like, "Pete, you got something?" And it was the last piece of equipment that I needed. It was like the ink or something. I was waiting on one more package to like be able to do tattoos. So I was like, "Oh shit, that's it. We got everything now." He's like, "Oh, you can do a tattoo now?" And I was like, yeah, we got it all. And he's like, "All right, well, what are we doing?" And he like plopped down in the chair, and at like 3:00 in the morning, we did a tattoo that night, my very first tattoo.
That is awesome.
Yeah, man. And after that, it was a wrap, bro. Just going down to the shop, learning from Mike, coming home, studying YouTube. Yeah. Which you can learn fucking anything on YouTube these days.
Isn't that crazy right now?
It's amazing.
Like, literally, YouTube is almost like, I don't want to say it's better than school, but it has everything you need to know there.
Depending on the path that you want to go. I mean, obviously, I think if you're going to be like a doctor or a lawyer and, you know, you need the degree and the education there, then, you know, by all means. But there's a lot of shit you can learn on YouTube.
Well, we said this with other guests. It's important to go to school because you learn like things like structure. You learn how important it is to be on time for things, task-oriented, organization, all these like actual world, you know, you could use this in the world, but a lot of the other stuff we were taught when we were going there is kind of like, well, what do we use that for? Yeah. But nowadays, you can go to YouTube. You can spend a whole day just in 2 seconds going down the rabbit hole of something you're interested in and know a fair bit about it afterwards.
And you get a lot of different people's perspectives too, because more often than not, there's more than one video from more than one source about the same topic. Right. Or say you go to school and you're learning whatever you're learning from that specific professor, you're getting the textbook version and then his perception of that, you know, where you can get a ton of different opinions on a ton of different things all in one space.
Yeah, and it's not just watching the video, but you can read down below and have other people's comments that have watched it as well, and then they might suggest, hey, if you like this, I also found this over here, and it's like, it's just a really amazing world of networking almost without meeting people. So you spent quite a lot of time, because you're saying like grade school you went to like a fine arts school. Yeah. At a young age, you learned how to like stand in front of a group of people and be judged, basically. And then after that, you chose because you wanted to do sports, which was a great choice, you know, as a young man to be in another type of school where you could be social in different ways. Yeah. And then you kind of drifted away from the artistry. And then you fell into the hospitality industry that most of us and a handful of our guests have done, and thought you were going to go down that road.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, like, up until the point when I made the switch, There was nothing else in my mind. I had devoted the last 8 years of my life, managing different bars and restaurants and thinking, this is what I'm going to do.
So how many years would you say it was where, I'd imagine you probably, like you said, you doodled every now and again, but you kind of left the world of art for quite some time. Like, what was that period of time?
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, at the restaurants, we would have like, the chalkboard with the specials on it or something. And I would, take pride in doing that really well.
Yeah.
And even just like my handwriting was decent, or I've always had like good penmanship and calligraphy, as I would like to call it now.
That's crazy.
So that was almost what my first thought was when I saw this guy doing his crazy Gothic fonts, was like, I could just do calligraphy and, Bible verses and stuff like that, simple fonts like that. And so, I mean, doing penmanship and stuff like that was always something that I not really practiced, but just kind of did for fun. In high school, I would like do graffiti and shit like that on my binders and all other legal surfaces. And as far as like really sitting down and trying to draw something realistic or, practicing some sort of fine art, probably since the day I left 8th grade.
Wow.
Yeah. After that, it was all just kind of like stuff I wanted to do for fun. Because I think maybe I got a little burnt out on it too, because it's, it's like art's, for lack of a better term, like a form of expression, And so when you're going to school for it and you're having assignments every day of this is what you need to go home and draw, it takes a little bit of the fun and the love out of it because now it's homework, you know? So I think, 3 years of doing that every single day, I was ready for a break, and I was excited to kind of go to just a regular public school and have that experience and be with my friends that I played sports with and shit like that.
Right.
So, I mean, other than graffiti and doing things like that, 8th grade was probably the last time I had really sat down and tried to look at a reference and draw something realistic. And then I picked it back up when I decided I wanted to start tattooing. I really dove back into like practicing fine art again once I wanted to go this route. And it became fun, because I was doing it for myself.
Yeah, it wasn't the homework where you're being told you need to do this, this, and this.
Right.
Yeah. Going from a fine art school and going into a public school.
Yeah.
Making that choice, you actually had to have that conversation with your parents, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I don't think it was a real shock, though, because, I mean, in addition to doing art was always kind of more of, like, my hobby thing that I did for fun, and sports was, like, my life.
Okay.
I had played football and baseball my whole life growing up, and being in South Florida, you can play baseball year-round, you're playing rec baseball during rec season, and then your travel team during the off-season. And then once I got to middle school, the art school did have a baseball team that I played for. So I was playing middle school baseball for the school, my travel team afterwards. So I'd be doing like 2 practices a day.
Wow.
And then during football season, the schedule was alternated. So it'd be like Mondays, I'd do school baseball, then travel baseball. Tuesday, I'd do school baseball, then football. 2-a-days every day, And so I think sports was always like my main focus. And so that conversation of like, I don't really want to go to Dreyfus because I don't think they even have a baseball team there.
Right.
Like soccer is one of their, and like water polo and shit are their only sports.
Water polo.
Yeah, I wasn't going to convert. So I don't think they were shocked when I, said I'd rather just go to Dwyer and play football and baseball. And
sounds like you had like good supportive parents.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love my parents, and we have a really good relationship now. But I think they would also admit at that time in my life, they both were dealing with an alcohol problem, which they both have beat at this point. So I feel much more comfortable talking about it on a platform like this. But at that time, they were probably a little checked out at the same time. So it's like, not that, they were super supportive because, someone was taking me to all those fucking practices. And I realize it so much now as an adult, how fortunate I was to have parents that would dedicate that time to picking me up from school, running me to this practice, picking me up from that practice, running me to another one. And we traveled all over the country too. For like some of the travel baseball teams I played for, we were really good and went to Colorado and New York and traveled all over the place. So, I'm very grateful for, the money they spent in making that happen and the time they spent in picking me up and taking me places. But I think they also, were happy to kind of just let me do, I got to kind of do what I wanted to do when it came to stuff like that. And even more so in high school, like I went down a little bit of a different path and started getting in trouble around that time.
Yeah.
And, you know, they became just a little checked out, and that's kind of how I got away with a lot of the shit I got away with. Slid under the radar.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all deal with a lot of stuff in our heads, our own inner demons that, you know, we've talked about before in the past. Sure. And the fact that, you know, you're very honest and open and being vulnerable about, you know, what you grew up with, that's thank you, you know,
of course,
for doing that on here. That's amazing. Being that you said that, you know, I can't imagine what that would be like to have a parent that, you know, had an issue with drinking.
Mm-hmm.
And then being that you're saying like that's when you started getting into trouble when you got kind of in that high school era.
Yeah.
Did you find yourself that like because of what you saw your parents doing that like you were kind of falling down that kind of route at a young age?
So like in middle school and even my freshman year of high school, it was almost the opposite. I saw a lot of what was going on at home and my parents fighting and attributing it to them drinking. And for, you know, my middle school and freshman year of high school years, I said I was going to be straight edge. I didn't want to ever smoke, drink, do any drugs. And I was committed to it also. Like, I mean, I know I was young to be making a decision like that, but because of what I was seeing at home and I really didn't like that, I wanted to, you know, never go that route. And to the point where I wanted a straight edge tattoo. And I was begging my parents when I was like 15, 16 years old to let me get this straight edge tattoo. And eventually one day my mom sat me down and was like, look, I really respect, you know, the way you feel and this decision that you're making. I think it's a great thing. But I don't want to be responsible for letting you get this tattoo and being stuck with it for the rest of your life if you ever choose to change your mind about this. Mm-hmm. Because I know she knew that I was making this decision because of the way they were. And she basically spelled it out to me and was like, I think if you have enough willpower to say you're never going to smoke or drink or do any drugs your whole life, you probably also have enough willpower to just live a normal life. And you don't have to, just because you drink alcohol doesn't mean you'll be like me and your dad. You can just drink at a normal level and like not miss out on a lot of the things that, you know, normal people get to appreciate when it comes to alcohol. You know, I don't want you to go to college and feel different from everyone else because you made this decision when you were 15 years old because of us. And I don't know, the way she said that resonated a little bit, and that kind of changed my mind, where I felt like she was right. If I do have enough willpower to make this decision that I'm never going to do it, then I probably do have enough willpower to just, you know, maybe participate at a normal person's level.
With moderation.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, kudos to your mom, the fact that she noticed. Obviously, I'm sure there's many conversations where like her child is witnessing what's going on in the household and every aspect that has come from the excessive drinking and whatever else might have happened, and took the time to talk to you and just kind of talk to you as an adult and say, listen, like, I'll support you if you make this decision, but you know, you could also live a life where you do things, you know, with moderation, and, and you have, obviously. Yeah,
and my life maybe would have been very different had I not gone that route. I mean, it without a doubt would have been very different, because, you know, maybe I went down, you know, not the right path at first, where I honestly wasn't that interested in drinking when we had that conversation. I wanted to smoke weed.
Okay.
I was interested in smoking weed.
Yeah.
And more so, I wanted to sell weed.
Wow.
At that age, I was a freshman in high school, and everyone was smoking weed, and I've always had this little businessman mindset. I was slinging Xboxes in 8th grade, meeting people on fucking Craigslist and stuff.
Nice.
And I don't know, when I saw, you know, everyone in high school was smoking weed, I wanted to be the plug.
Right.
And one of my friends, who was like the biggest stoner I knew at the time, I told him this, and he was like, bro, you can't sell weed if you don't smoke weed. You won't even know if the stuff you have is good or not. I was like, fuck, man, really?
Yeah, but at the same time, you're not supposed to sample your own stash.
Sure, yeah, that's true. So whatever, I took that into consideration. And so when me and her had that conversation, I wasn't like running to go grab a drink. I wanted to smoke. I hit my boys up and was like, you know what, guys, I'm doing it. And so that was kind of, I was like a pothead from the moment I first smoked. I think after my first time smoking, I smoked like every day for however long. And
that was freshman or sophomore
That
year?
was my, maybe like, I think I went into freshman year being straight edge. I don't remember if it was the remainder of freshman year that I stayed that way or if it was sophomore year, but around that time, my first or second year of high school.
And that's during a time where, like, you know, there's a lot more stigma with smoking weed. You know, nowadays, obviously a lot different in 2023. I have a few years on you. I started smoking weed when I was in September of grade 8.
Wow.
First thing I ever smoked was hash, actually. A friend of mine, I'm not going to say his name, but we were actually at Temple, believe it or not.
Nice.
Holiest of all days, like the Jewish New Year. And here I am with him going out to the forest with a glass Snapple bottle, I think, and we're doing bots. Like, you know,
what's a bot?
A bot. So like you have your hash and you roll it into like little beads, and you have your cigarette and get the heater going, and then you just tap the heater on the hash and it sticks to it, and then you put it into the bottle. And you have the cap on it that streams the smoke. Yeah. And then, you know, take that out and then you twist off the top and you go, yeah. Of course, I'm not really promoting drugs, but I'm just saying this is what I did in my life. And again, doing things in moderation, you can still become successful. Yep. But that's what I did. I was heading into grade 8. You know, I was like, 12 years old? Yeah. You know, I didn't know better. A friend of mine said, hey, you want to try this? I said, yep, sure. Yeah, right. You know, and then I'm lucky because that started my career into like experiment and stuff like that. And I did most of what I've done in my life by the time I was like 21. Really? And by the time I was 25, I pretty much like stepped away from everything except for smoking weed. I mean, that was like a part of my life, you know, up until I was about 30 when I got into the industry I'm in now, where you can't smoke weed because you get drug tested. Oh, do you? Yeah, on boats, on yachts. I mean, it's like some boats do, some boats don't, but for the safety reason of like not losing your job, I just don't smoke weed. Yeah, sure. But it's silly because like nowadays, like weed is like, I mean, in my country, it's legal country side to side, coast to coast, you know, for recreational and medicinal. So it's like, you know, test me for anything you want. Yeah. Well, come on, let me smoke some weed. Yeah, sure. You know. But anyhow, you make those choices in life as to what's more important. Having a job that pays well, that affords the ability to, you know, keep my company going is more important to me than smoking a joint. Yeah. But so you went down that route in high school. Yeah. You know, a lot of creatives obviously smoke weed and do drugs, like musicians, artists of all sorts. It's not like it's like unknown. Yeah, sure. And you were able to keep it to a moderation. You were, you know. Yeah, I mean, at that time, I've got a very addictive personality. I probably get that from my parents. Right. And so this was kind of a time where I was, I don't know if the right word is rebelling, but I, you know, and again, not to be an advocate for this, but I was skipping a lot of school and probably not hanging out with the right crowd 50% of the time. I had like still my sports friends because I was still playing sports and baseball and football. And so I had that crew that I hung out with, but I also had a few friends who weren't the best influence. And again, like, so I pretty much immediately started selling weed as well, cause that's like what I was more interested in. And, I took that pretty serious. Well, you had that business sense in you. You saw a situation that was like, I can make money out of this. Right. I'm not going to spend my money on this stupid thing that's, you know, just for fun. But if I can make money on it and get to do it for free at the same time, why not? No brainer. And so that, I mean, that stage of my life continued for a while. I went to college in Tallahassee, but really not because I was that interested in going to college, but I figured my business will double down, you know? Right, yeah. I'll be out of the parents' house, so I don't have to worry about, like, sneaking around anymore. And I'll be in a town full of kids that are readily looking for it. Are all looking for it, exactly. It's no secret. College, university, this is when kids want to go out and experiment and try things that they weren't allowed to do inside the confines of their parents' house. And you just hope that, you know, they have that smarts to do it in moderation and do it, you know, responsibly and like, you know, with the right people, you know. And I mean, that led to me getting in trouble. I got set up in a sting in Tallahassee. Damn. Some kid was selling like ecstasy out of his dorm room and got caught and just started snitching on anyone that he could to get out of trouble. And I had sold him weed like twice before. Yeah. And the cops start texting me on his phone, set me up in a sting. And I end up doing some time in jail in Tallahassee for that. Wow. And, but like, I'm grateful for that experience too, because
it made me snap out of it. It made me come back home, get my old job back, and just kind of start grinding and doing things the right way. Where had I not had that experience, nothing was really going to make me stop, other than getting caught probably, because the money was good. Everyone wants to be your friend, and I was just kind of having a good time in Tallahassee.
Life of the party.
Right, 100%.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I knew that in the back of my head that was really the only thing that was going to make me stop that lifestyle.
What was that situation like? How intense was that?
The actual setup itself was I still remember it vividly. Mm-hmm. I drove a motorcycle at the time, and so the cops had been texting me on his phone, and normally I would have had him come to my house, which I'm glad he didn't, or I'm glad it didn't work out that way, because I had a lot more weed at my house than what they had asked for. And again, I was making poor choices, but I had guns at the house and a lot of things that would have got me in a lot more trouble. But they wanted to bust me on school campus because that would have been an enhanced charge. So instead of coming to my house, they asked me to meet them at the Pike House, which was a fraternity house. And it's not technically on the campus area. Right. Because I would never have showed up to school campus with it. I was smarter than that. But I was thinking, go to the frat house, meet him at the frat house. That's a pretty common place for a drug deal. Right. But the building is owned by the school. So they get to classify. Loophole,
Yeah. Fraternity Row, which is off campus, but it's owned by the school.
Yeah. So they got to hit me with that enhanced charge.
Fuck.
And so I pull in on my motorcycle. I've got the work in my backpack. And I pull into the parking lot, and the parking lot is completely empty. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. I had a regular job at the time, too. I was working at Champs, the shoe store.
Okay.
At the mall. And so I was in my Champs uniform.
Yeah.
I always had a regular job the whole time, too, because I was just trying to make as much money as I could. I might as well get the paycheck as well.
Yeah.
So I'm in my Champs uniform. I'm on my motorcycle. I pull in the parking lot that's completely empty except for this one blacked out Chevy Silverado, blacked out windows, and I go and I'm rolling by it and I'm looking at this truck, and as I look through the windshield, I become parallel with it. I look through the windshield, and there's 4 dudes ducked down behind the dashboard with vests on.
Fuck.
And as soon as I see them, I'm like, oh shit, what is this? And so I was basically where my destination was. I should have just parked right there, but I saw that and it freaked me out, so I kept driving around. It was basically where this Pike House was. The Pike House was in the center of this plaza, and so it was a big cul-de-sac that revolved around the Pike House in the middle. Okay. And so I just kept driving around the circle, and I'm looking behind me. I keep looking behind me, and they're not following me. So I think I'm, at this point I should have taken the backpack off, and there was woods right next to me. I could have tossed it in the woods. There was balconies next to me. I could have tossed it up on someone's balcony or something. But it was also kind of a lot of money for me at the time that I had in my backpack. And I kept checking behind me and no one's following me. So I started thinking, maybe I'm tripping, maybe they weren't here for me. Yeah. Maybe this wasn't what I thought it was. Maybe I'm tripping. I'm just going to dip and go to work, though. I'm not going to meet this kid. And as I come around to the exit, they are approaching me now. So they didn't follow me. They went the other way to cut me off, Yeah. And so as soon as I see them, I'm like, oh, shit. This is exactly what I thought it was. Yeah. They pull the truck sideways, block the road. Fuck. 4 dudes jump out with rifles. Get on the fucking ground. And I'm where was I going to go? I look behind me now, and undercover cars are pulling out of everywhere. There was probably 6 cars total there.
Get out
Everyone's
here.
getting out with guns out. I don't know who they thought I was. I had headphones in. I was listening to music, so I couldn't really hear them. I'm assuming they were saying get on the fucking ground. I just had my hands up. They rip me off the bike, throw me on the ground, pull my helmet off, and they're like, oh, he had headphones on. He couldn't hear us. Right. And right away, someone's like, I smell it. And so they just rip the backpack off me, pull it open, and that was a wrap.
But that's just possession.
Well, with intent to distribute, it was a half a pound. It was a quarter pound, but still felony amount. Intent to distribute. Plus, they have the whole. I mean, they set me up, so they know that it was intent to distribute, regardless. Right. And now it's on school property, so that made the charge worse.
What was the total time?
30 days.
That's it.
Yeah. I mean, it was more than I should have got, though, dude.
Yeah.
I know so many people that have gotten caught with that much, if not more, and gotten no time.
Yeah, probably because they fucking flipped on somebody.
Maybe, yeah. Which I wasn't going to do that. They tried, but I wasn't going to do that. So there was it was probably an 8-month process of going through court that before I ended up getting sentenced to that 30 days. And so I immediately moved back home to West Palm because I couldn't afford to live in Tallahassee working at Champs. I was only paying my bills because of the weed.
Yeah.
And so I immediately moved back home. I got my job back at Bradley's where I had been like a food runner before I left. And then I came back and was able to start bar backing. And I just grinded, bro. I just worked every day.
Head down, just kept going.
I had a lawyer up there that would go to my court cases or my, court dates. And I was just, praying that I, wasn't going to get time. And, if it's probation and I can just do that down here, then whatever. But I wound up getting the 30 days 6 or 8 months later. And kind of funny, no one at Bradley's knew why I had to go back to Tallahassee for 30 days.
Hey, I gotta take a vacation, guys.
That's what I told him. I was like, I'm going to go visit my boys in Tallahassee for a month. And they believed me, man. I told him, Chef OJ at the time, was the guy who made the barback schedule.
Okay.
And I knew if I told him I needed a month off, he was going to be like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? So I told him, because he was cool.
Respect.
Like, I knew I could tell him. But the owners there are very old school, and Frank Caniglio, R.I.P., I love that guy to death.
Yeah.
But he had just fired someone when I first started there because he saw him on the booking blotter for West Palm Beach for getting caught with weed. Okay. And he fired the kid. So I was like, fuck, I can't tell Frank. I got in trouble, So I told OJ and didn't tell anybody else. I told everyone I was just going to visit the boys.
Well, I mean, OJ understood. I mean, he's in the kitchen. That's where I've grown up. It's it sucks to say it, but it kind of comes with the territory of being in hospitality. There's more of us who have gotten in trouble than those who have not. That's why there's books written about it. That's why we have stories to tell about it.
Sure.
But I must say, you said you could have done this, you could have done that, when you were on your bike. But like you said, the way it happened is probably for the best because if you got out of that situation, it might have ended up a lot worse, in the future.
It could have been so much worse.
Yeah. That was your wake up.
Yeah, 100%. And so I wasn't going to make that mistake twice. I wasn't going to go back to selling drugs and potentially get in trouble again. I had learned my lesson. And so I came back home, worked really hard, kind of worked my way up through the ladder of, bar backing with the hopes of becoming a bartender, became a bartender. And then wound up having to go back up to Tallahassee to do that 30 days, which, it wasn't crazy. It wasn't like, I don't know. I mean, I saw some crazy shit in there, but as long as you kind of mind your business and keep your head down and you're not getting involved in the crazy shit, it's pretty laid back. I played a lot of cards and read a lot of books.
Yeah. And you were 20 something? I
was probably 19.
19.
I was
you were
18 or 19.
As an adult then, for sure.
Yeah. I was an adult.
So not juvie, but you were in full on.
Leon County Jail.
There you go, full on.
Pod D.
Shout out.
Shout out to Pod D, my boy Peanut.
There you go, Peanut. How you doing, buddy? Amazing. I mean, honestly, life is full of ups and downs, as we know that. Yeah. And you luckily got out of it. You learned from it. You changed your life for the better.
Totally.
The person sitting here next to me is an amazing human being. I know that for a fact. I've gotten to know you over a short period of time after being introduced by my boy TJ. Introduced us when you were at Kachina in a suit and everything. Yeah. And this friendship's built from there. So I'm super stoked that changed your life.
Yeah, me too.
I'm grateful. I have gratitude every day that, you're someone that I know now. So
thank you, man. Likewise.
I thank you for that. So now you've been working at the restaurant life for a while. And when you were talking earlier about, getting back into the artistry and when COVID hit, you obviously you're stuck in your house a lot more. So you started, going after the tattoo thing and your face lit up when you said it. You're like, that was it. Once I got all that equipment and your boy Kevin, once you tattooed on him, I was just like, that's it. It's over. This is my path.
Yeah.
What was that like? That feeling?
It felt good. I mean, it was scary at the same time because I kind of had to make a decision sort of at the same time. With COVID going on and the restaurant group I was working for, like I said, we all lost our salaries. And so I had, money was tight for a while. And, to be fair, I wasn't being super smart with my money leading up to that point. I had, a couple $1,000 in savings, but nothing that I could live off for like a long time, And the pay that we were getting when COVID first happened was pretty minimal, which again, I was grateful for in the beginning. I was just happy to still have a job and be getting paid anything and not have been someone that was laid off. But when that continued for like 6 months, all of a sudden, you have zero savings because you've been using that to pay the bills. And I was really scraping it together for a little bit. And that was scary. But this was like around when things were starting to come back to normal too, we were maybe doing like 25% occupancy instead of just takeout only. But people were eager to get back outside, and they wanted to come out. Us being Floridians, you couldn't like keep us away from Clematis Street. So business was kind of booming. And at this time, like, I'm managing these different places and I'm seeing the numbers at the end of the day. And like, we would always compare the numbers from the previous year. And we started doing pretty good.
Right.
And, I'm comparing from the previous year when it wasn't COVID, and now we're beating those numbers, because there's that many people that just want to come out and drink and eat again, So we were doing well, and it started to make me kind of feel some type of way about still not getting paid. Like, we still didn't have salaries back. We were still getting paid really little. And, I don't want to like say the restaurant group I was working for at the time, because I'm still like on good terms with all those people and everything's all good. But they were kind of grooming me for a new position. Like, I wanted to be director of operations of this restaurant group that I was working at. And they were planning on opening up new places, and I wanted to sort of oversee the whole thing. And they were on board with that. They, were prepping me for being in that role. They had someone else in that role already, but they were kind of going to switch some things around, put him in a different position, and then move me there. But part of that, I was a little apprehensive because I wanted to make sure I was going to get paid appropriately for taking on this new responsibility and this new role. And it was kind of a mistake I had made for the previous 8 years of being in that industry, of kind of, I don't want to say being taken advantage of, because I was grateful for all those opportunities, but I got paid basically the same thing for the previous 8 years. And I not to toot my own horn, but I grew a business pretty substantially during that 8 years.
Yeah.
And so this time I didn't want to make that same mistake. So I had the conversation up front before they moved this guy to a different position and take his role away. Let me be transparent with them and make it clear what I'm looking for to take this role. And, they had the conversation with me then that, if that's the number that you're expecting, I don't think we're going to be able to give you that. And if you have a better opportunity somewhere else where you can make that, then it's no hard feelings. You can go that route. And this was right at the same time that I'm plotting on this tattoo stuff in the behind the scenes,
Right.
And so, not that I took that personal, but I used it as fuel kind of. And I was like, you know what? Maybe this is a sign that this is the route I'm supposed to go. And so I put in my resignation and kind of went all in on the tattooing. I decided I'm going to make this work. And so, it was very exciting because I was stoked to be, about to do something for myself and something that I was, passionate about and excited about. But I also had to make it work pretty quick, because now I don't have savings because I've been blowing it for the last 6 months of not getting paid much. And now all of a sudden I have to turn this into an income. Yeah. So I was super stoked, and I'm grateful that I made the decision I did because it changed my life, but it was a little nerve-wracking at the same time.
Well, what you're touching on a little bit there with the restaurant situation is something we've talked to our viewers before, is knowing your worth.
Right, yeah.
And that's an important thing when you're making that transition or that decision with like what you want to do with your life. If you're in a situation where, you just feel every day it's not the right thing or whatever, maybe there's something else out there for you. Knowing your own worth and knowing what you're capable of doing is great. And then absolutely, I think that everything was happening for a reason. Yeah. I mean, we both believe that, you just have to be self-aware and open to the idea that the universe, God, whatever it is that you fall on, is working in your best interest.
Yeah.
And, a big reason why that company said, listen, that's, not what we're willing to pay you, was just another light of fire underneath you to be like, yeah, dude, tattooing, this is like, clearly, this is my option right now.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's a bit fearful once you realize what it is that you truly want to do, and what makes you happy. To go after that is scary.
Yeah.
So how did you deal with that? Because here you are now, you've got your decision, the company you've been working for a long time, that you've helped raise their profits, isn't willing to give you what you believe is your worth, and you're working on a side hustle, you're getting the knowledge, you're learning how to become a tattoo artist, and now you're kind of like, well, fuck it, this is what I'm going to do now.
Yeah. But
now there's no guarantee of a paycheck.
Right.
That's the scary part for me.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So how'd you deal with that?
So, I mean, a few ways. My number one thing that I really attribute a lot of my life to is a gratitude list. And I dove right into that. Like every day I was super disciplined with it, in the sense of, when I write a gratitude list, I'm writing things that I'm grateful for, obviously. But a big thing, and not to use the word manifest, because I feel like it's sort of gotten a weird reputation as of lately, because it gets used a lot and people think it's a little like foo-foo or whatever.
Which those people are wrong.
Yeah, 100%. I got
wrong,
manifest, I think, tattooed on my body a couple times.
Yeah.
I'm a big manifest guy.
Absolutely.
But I don't want to turn anyone off by using that word either. But in order to manifest the things that I want, not only am I writing things that I'm already grateful for that I have in my life, but I'm writing things that I want to manifest into my life, but I'm writing them as if I already have them. So I write, I'm so happy and grateful for my rapid success as a tattoo artist, when the only person I've tattooed is Kevin in my living room,
Right,
so I'm writing everything that I'm looking to manifest in my life, but I'm writing it as if I already have it. And I got obsessively disciplined with that at this time, because it was really, that had been something I had been practicing since high school. And it felt like it made me feel better,
Right.
whatever nerves I had, you have a hard time sleeping at night, not knowing when your next payday is, and that there is no guarantee that anyone's going to hit me up for a tattoo, or, that I'm going to make any money. And there's a lot of anxiety that comes with that. And so the one thing that really made me feel secure and, close that notebook and feel fucking fired up and excited about what I had stewing in my life was that gratitude list. And so I just got super disciplined with it. And I mean, I could recite my entire gratitude list at that time right now, because I wrote it over and over and over again. And, even the specifics of how much money I made per day, and then gradually over time, that number bumped up quick. I was writing, I think when I first started, I'm grateful for making $300 a day, and thinking if in a year from now I'm making $300 a day tattooing, I'll be stoked. And like 4 months later, I doubled that number, and I had to adjust my gratitude list accordingly, So it was, the gratitude list has always kind of been a fallback for me. And I mean, I hate to even say that, because it really should be the forefront of how I move, especially with how much amazing stuff I've been able to do with that list in my life.
Right.
In jail, it was the same way. That 30 days in jail, I wrote probably 2 gratitude lists a day, every single day. And, the stories I could tell you of coming straight out of jail with no money in my account and just grinding at Bradley's, making $5,000 in a month, going and buying a car that same month, where, everything that I've written on that list that I've really taken seriously and put the time and the effort into trying to make happen has manifested itself as a result of that list. And this was kind of no exception. At any scary moment in my life, or whenever I'm feeling, unsure of the future or anxious about what I've got working, the gratitude list has kind of always saved me.
You must have like multiple books.
Yeah, I'm really bad about finishing them. I've got dozens of half-used notebooks.
Oh wow!
Because I get excited about a new one for whatever reason. I'm like a weird notebook guy.
Hey, that's a good thing to be excited about.
Yeah, sure.
It's interesting, because I talk to our viewers and our subscribers often. Like, we're doing TikTok and everything as well, and we give advice, and I talk about gratitude list as well. And I'm going to start putting into my practice what you do, which is actually writing it down. Cause I have 3 or 4 different journals that I have, which I'm actually writing different books actually. And my gratitude list I do is in the morning and in the night, just in my bed as I'm like waking up before I leave my bed.
Yeah.
And then before I go to sleep. And even sometimes when I'm going for my walks with my dog, but I just say them out loud. I just use auto suggestion as my notebook. But I like the idea of actually writing it down, because then, you can look back and see what you were grateful for, and then obviously adjust that for what you now want to be grateful for. And I love the idea that in essence, you were writing it down, but you were also visualizing what you were going to get.
Oh, yeah.
Which is huge.
Yeah, I think it's almost just as important. There's some sort of science. I'm going to say science. I can't quote you on what the science is, but I've watched, a lot of videos about the law of attraction and The Secret and manifesting and things like that. And I think there is some sort of power to actually physically writing it on paper, because some people will type it in their notes on their phone or do a voice memo or something. And I think they're all, helping in some way. But I've just found for myself, at least personally, that writing it physically on paper is more effective for me. And then, like you said, being able to look back in a few months and realize how many things on that list you've checked off gives you a whole new boost of like, this shit's really working. It gets you fired up to when you realize you made it happen.
It takes your anxiety to excitement.
Hell yeah.
And I think that's what we all want, because we all deal with anxiety. Every one of us, everyone watching, we all deal with anxieties and stresses. But when you're able to shift that anxiety, more days of anxiety to more days of excitement, because anxiety will always be there. Sure. But when you can shift it into more excitement, I think it's really, really good. And that's a valid point. Like for anyone out here that, tunes in and listens, we do talk about manifestation. We talk about gratitude lists. We talk about all these auto suggestion and stuff like that. And it's like, if you don't believe it, that's fine. That's your right to do it. But if you think it might work based on, Pete, myself, all the guests that we've had on here that talk about it, give it a try. Yeah. Start writing it down. And the mind-blowing effect of when you see it actually happening, and it doesn't happen overnight. It's not you write one gratitude list and the next day your life is fucking amazing.
100%.
No, it takes time, like everything else. Everything's a practice. You gotta lay the foundation, then you gotta put in the work, then eventually you get to see the house built, basically. So, but give it a try.
Sure.
What does it hurt?
100%. It doesn't cost you anything.
Exactly.
That's something I've always liked to preach when it comes to talking about this stuff. For people especially who are struggling or, with anxiety or with a decision that they have to make, for whatever reason that you've got, thoughts in your head that, you're not in favor of. What we're talking about, we're not asking you to buy some subscription to something or learn from some guru that you have to pay. It's literally as simple as we're saying it is. You get a piece of paper and you start writing things down that you're grateful for, get your thoughts on paper. And, sometimes, what I was saying about writing things that you don't have yet as if you already have them can sound a little weird or far-fetched, but it's exciting, really. It should be exciting. I think it may be in the movie The Secret or another video that I've watched where they say it should almost be like making your Christmas list as a kid, where you're writing to Santa all the things that you want. That shit was exciting because you think you're getting the stuff on this list, and it fires you up.
You
as
believed
a kid.
it.
100%.
Yeah.
And so now you get to do the same thing as an adult, where you get to map out the way you want your life to be, and you go into this little dream state while you're doing it of visualizing yourself driving that car that you're writing about, and it should be fun. And it won't be for the first couple times. It'll feel weird. It won't feel natural. But the more repetition you get doing it, the easier it gets, and eventually it'll click. And I mean, I think you'll feel pretty good after doing it, even on the first time. It won't maybe be life-changing the first time, right? But you're not going to feel worse, It's not a huge chore that we're saying could potentially change your life. Yeah. The pros and cons are like...
There's way more pros to it than cons. And if you're a person right now who's unfortunately dealing with the worry of the way other people judge you, this is a task that you do by yourself. Yeah. No one's around. You're in your room. You're at your house, you're in your car, like wherever you are. If you deal with those worries of caring what other people think or say about you, you're doing this in private.
Yeah, sure.
You know, and eventually you'll get to that point like us where we, celebrate zero fucks giving.
Yeah.
I'm not.
And you don't have to let
else.
anyone read the gratitude list,
Exactly.
Get honest with yourself when you're writing it, because it's really just for you, like you're saying. It's a private thing. I mean, I've been doing this for, bad at math, 13 years or something, 15 years.
15 years.
Something like that. And on and off, I'm not going to say I'm disciplined about doing it every single day, although I should be.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone through phases of being really disciplined with it, and then unfortunately sometimes life gets good and like you start feeling comfortable and you fall off, and then as soon as things start getting scary and bad again, I'll be like, I need to pick up my gratitude list.
Yeah. We've talked about that before here, and we will many, many more times, is like, it's important to have consistency, but realize that you won't always be consistent.
Yeah, and I don't beat myself up for that.
Yeah.
I think that's something that's important too. It's okay to just go back and pick it up. As soon as I have that thought of, man, it's been a while, the best thing I can do to not feel bad about that is just go pick up the list and start writing.
Yeah. And how amazing is it right now? Because 3 years ago, you dove, you jumped right the fuck into the deep end. You no more hospitality job, no more guaranteed paycheck. Okay, I have all my equipment. I know how to do, I'm an artist. I know how to do tattoos. Okay, now I got to get clients. Fuck, what am I going to do? But now you're at that point, fast forward to present time.
Yeah.
You have a beautiful studio.
Thank you.
An amazing studio, which, as we know, your co-host on your podcast, Nick, and I have a problem with his last name.
Ignelli.
Nick Ignelli. Shout out, buddy.
Yeah.
You're going to come on here as well. It's just I only have 2 mics, so I couldn't have both of you at the same time.
Yeah.
I have to invest in a third one. But what a great part of your life where, because of the human you are, because of the belief you have in yourself, you surround yourself with a close-knit group of people that care about you and support you as much as you do them. And here's your buddy Nick, who owns a construction company, right? And his construction company is called
Ignelli Enterprise.
There you go. We'll put that at the bottom as well if anyone's looking for some construction suggestions or work or what have you. This guy's pretty legit. Yeah. So Nick has an office, and you want to get a studio, and what happens?
Yeah, so Nick owns this company, Ignelli Enterprise, and he didn't have an office at the time. He was looking around, trying to find a spot that he wanted to have a main base and a headquarters for his company. And he found a space in North Palm that he really liked because of the location and proximity to where he does most of his work. But it was just a lot more space than what he needed.
Right.
And I was doing kind of the same thing at this time, looking for spaces to open a new studio. And he was like, look, man, I'm going to demo this place completely and rebuild it from the ground up. As far as the internals, the external of the building, no, but rip down every wall and start from scratch and just rebuild it. And I know you're looking for a space also, so if you want, we can build this into 2 spaces, and we can put your tattoo shop here. And I went and checked the place out, and Nick spent the last 3 or 4 months basically decking that place out and building it. And it was really cool to be a part of that process, and not just, find a space that I liked and move in and make it work, but to get to kind of be able to hand pick where I wanted things to go and how to build it out was awesome. And even be a part of the process, to go in there and do the demo. And
I was going to say, you picked up a sledgehammer, I'm sure,
man.
right?
Yeah, it was cool.
Literally building your future.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And it's cool to do it with one of your best friends, Get to, it was a big milestone for both of us. It was Nick's first office, and it was a really exciting time for both of us.
Amazing. And for anyone out there, Pete's tattoo shop is called
In the Biz Inc.
And I gotta say this because you guys know I'm fully tattooed here, and I've been I'm not the best at math either. 19 was when I started getting tattooed. I'm 45 years young now, so it's been a long time. Yeah. Countless hours of tattoos. I have to say this, no harm to all the other tattoo artists that I've gone to. Love them all. Still go see them. Their shops are amazing. But Pete's shop, you've done one up on everybody.
Thank you, man.
You walk into this place, cleanliness, boom, done. Sanitary, completely. It's crisp, it's clean. The overhead, what do you call that? The lighting, I guess.
Yeah, the hexagon lights.
Yeah, the hexagon lights. I mean, I thought that was fucking brilliant. But one up on everybody else is the fact that when you sit in the chair, and everyone else who does this next is following you. I'm saying it out here, right? It's the first one I've seen. Yeah. You guys have the iPad sitting right next to the chair that the person is going to get the ink done in. Yeah. You got a pair of headset there that has like the doctor covered on it, and you have YouTube and Netflix ready to go for the client.
Yeah, so they can watch whatever they want, zone out, go into their own world.
I love it. I mean, I'd never seen that before.
Thank you, man.
It's so amazing. When you go into the shop, when you do come by to get a tattoo by Pete, from the moment you walk in to the moment you leave, you feel like your family. Thanks, it's amazing. And you have Josie working with you there. Yeah. I've seen on the Instagram, she did something recently on some fake skin.
Yep.
The lion's head, I think.
Yeah,
dude, that was brilliant. I love it.
Bro.
You must be so proud of her too. Yeah?
100%, dude. She's gotten so good so fast. It's really cool to watch her do her thing and get to, be working side by side. It's really sweet.
That's awesome. So now you've got the tattoo shop.
Yeah.
And now you have a pretty steady clientele.
Yeah.
Right?
I've been very grateful and fortunate that, like we've kept saying, everything kind of has happened in my life for a reason, I feel like, and it's unfolded exactly the way it was supposed to, even with all the ups and downs. And the 8 years that I spent in the hospitality industry thinking that I was going to be opening a restaurant of my own, obviously I didn't go that direction, but that has turned around, and all the relationships and friendships I made during that time from day one were all of my first clients, and even still to this day, a lot of the people I see on a day-to-day basis is people that I know from that time in my life, or a friend of a friend from that time in my life. So, all that time spent was not time wasted, because, it's turned into basically the reason I was able to build this business from day one, because, working in a private studio from the very beginning, I didn't have walk-in business, I had to produce my own clientele. And that's really how it all started, was, tapping into the relationships I had.
And the private studio, which was at your home, which does make it difficult. I've been there for my first session. Yeah. And, for anyone that's living like closer to the downtown area, it's a bit of a drive for them. Yeah. So being the person that you are, this is what I believe, you can test it too, is like, none of us are perfect. Not everyone in this world likes us or loves us. We've been not the greatest to others. Sure. But for the most part, your personality, your vibe obviously has been kind to others. Being in the hospitality, being a GM of a restaurant, means that you have to know how to treat people properly. And because you've done that, you did that for so many years, your genuine happiness towards others is what has kept all of these people close to you enough that when you decided to venture out on your own to create a company, they didn't have a problem driving out to you. They didn't mind driving a bit longer to get tattooed by you. Yeah. And then of course the artwork speaks for itself. Yeah, thanks. I've said this many times, like I can't put my thumb on it, but there's a certain style behind Pete Casso, the tattoo artist.
Thanks, man.
And we've gotten 2 sessions done on my left front leg. Yeah. We have more to do on that leg, and then obviously the right leg as well. And I'm super stoked about it because, I love your style. I think it's really cool.
Thank you,
but
man.
More importantly, it comes down to the person, and it's important because we touch on this a little bit, but being kind to others and treating others the way you want to be treated is so important. And I feel like you've just had that innate ability much longer than I've known you. It seems like you've had that your whole life because of such a following that you got right off the bat from opening your company.
Yeah, thank you, man. But no, I feel it for sure. It was, I don't know if overwhelming is the right word to use, but from the beginning, I was just extremely grateful for the amount of love and support I got, and that it translated, because I think that's something that I don't know that I worried about a ton, but I think a lot of us can deal with, where like you get a little bit of FOMO if you decide to step out of the hospitality industry, especially working in that, bar business, nightlife business for as long as you do, you become a part of the scene. And then a lot of people want to move on from that eventually and get a more regular job and, not work the crazy late hours and stuff like that. But you feel like you're going to miss being a part of the party, and like everyone's going to be going to happy hour on Friday with all the regulars, and, you're not going to be a part of it anymore. And there was definitely a little bit of that involved in making the change, but I also was getting a little burnt out on the late nights and stuff. So I was like kind of ready for the change, but it was really amazing I think what countered that feeling was I got so much love and support from all the people who, I was seeing every day, and, even the people that, I didn't see every day, but, had developed long-term relationships with in the past. And And yeah, man, the love was overwhelming. It was really great, and still is today. I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, I never worked in the hospitality industry here in South Florida. I've just been fortunate enough to come in and out of West Palm Beach, being that I work on yachts. Hospitality was my life, obviously, but because when I came into West Palm for the first time in 2010, and every time I come in and out in the first 7 years of that, you know, I was obviously always partying downtown and met all like the friends that I, you know, have now. And the FOMO, it's almost like when you're in the mix of it all, you're very relevant.
Yeah.
You know, you're that person like, oh, that's so-and-so. And oh yeah, he hangs with those people. And like, oh yeah, he's here on these days. And, you know, you're very relevant and you don't want to lose that because you're like, I think a fear for most people is becoming irrelevant, you know, but when your goals in your life shift into less party and more what's good for me, what's good for my physical health, what's good for my mental health. I think that's when you don't worry anymore about the irrelevancy that you might become when you realize that, you know what, the people that actually matter that you saw all the time then are still going to love you no matter what. They're probably going to love you even more because you've gone out and you've gone after something that you wanted to make your life better. Then you realize that, you know, you don't really need to be there. You're not missing out on happy hour, you know, and then in turn, you know, we were living with X amount of money at that time. Now you're your own business owner. Now you have your own company. Now you don't do that stuff anymore. But when you want to go do something, there's no worry about saying, oh, I can't this weekend because I don't got the cash. You're like, you know what? Let me talk to my household. Let me see what we want to do. And fuck yeah, let's go away to the Keys for the weekend. I got this. That's a great feeling, right? Once you get there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the fear that people have about going after their own dreams, they should kind of like realize it's there. Yeah. It's going to be there and not gone instantly, but keep trying. Keep
the end goal in sight, you know. That's always like, I think your kind of constant reminder of, you know, why you're doing what you're doing. Right. And you know, it may be a journey, but it's like part of the process.
So since we have this gratitude list, which is, you know, what you're saying is actually probably one of the most key things for you to become successful. What would be like a couple other pointers for someone that's kind of sitting on the fence, you know, they watch us regularly and, you know, they want to become their own boss at something, but they're, you know, they got that fear in them. What are a couple other suggestions that you might, you know, tell somebody if they came to you and says, listen, I don't want to be a tattoo artist, but I definitely want to be my own boss of X. Yeah. What would you kind of tell them?
I think you kind of got to think of what it is you love to do, which may sound a little cliche, but I think that is maybe like a great starting point, you know, and you might have to dig a little deep too, because if you were to ask me when I was at the restaurant, what do you love to do? Drawing would have been like pretty low on the list because like I said, I hadn't drawn in a really long time. So you might have to kind of dig deep and it may not be an obvious answer, you know, and if like Sunday brunch is what you love to do or something, then you maybe like think a little deeper than that.
Right. Or think about a way that you can make money.
Or how you monetize Sunday brunch. Sure.
Exactly.
But you know, I think that's, you know, kind of the obvious starting point. And then kind of just the reminder that you can't be afraid to make the move. You know, you got to take action when the time comes. And in whatever form that is, you know, sometimes, like for me, it was, you know, when I first wanted to learn to tattoo, I was driving down to Coral Springs for free to just ask this guy questions and watch him work, you know, and I was still working full-time at the bar at the time, just trying to pick up the knowledge. So it's going to take some extra effort, you know, it's probably not going to come easy. I mean, if it does for you, then fantastic, more power to you. Absolutely. But you have to be willing to accept that you might have to put more on your plate for the time being in order to be able to have that free time and freedom in the future. Yeah.
I mean, I like that point a lot, actually. And that's for our viewers that are probably like, you know, maybe 25 or under. It's an important fact. A lot of people have mentioned this working for free or putting a little bit more on your plate where you have responsibilities, you have bills, you got to take care of that stuff. Yeah. But you have something that you're really passionate about and you want to know more about it. Going to the person who's already living the life that you want. Yeah. And seeing about getting some information from them or working for them or apprenticing, you know, that's a big thing. Like, you know, tattoo artists usually apprentice a little bit before getting their own spot. Chefs do what's called a stage. You know, we go and we work for free under another, like, you know, really good chef to learn free knowledge basically. And, you know, doing that little bit more for less. It's a valid point. I think that a lot of people need to do.
And, you know, I made a pretty drastic jump from, you know, having a full-time position for a long time to cutting it cold turkey and going straight into tattooing. But I don't even necessarily recommend that, you know. If you're in a position where you can slowly taper off of one to work into the other, then it makes it a lot less scary.
For sure.
If you can, you know, say you are bartending or serving or working whatever job you're working right now, if you can keep that and maybe taper off of it, take some less days, or even if you can't adjust your schedule, be willing to work those off hours towards that, you know, goal. I don't remember exactly what the quote is, but it's like, let your 9 to 5 fund your...
I was about this.
Can you quote it better? I can't think of exactly what it is.
Oh, I say this all the time. You got to work your 9 to 5 to support your 5 to 9 so that your 5 to 9 can become your 24/7.
Yeah, there it is. Perfect.
It's so key, man.
You nailed
it's
it.
so true. But what you're saying makes so sense for us because we're at that point now. You know, you have a very successful company. You're working for yourself now. I'm doing what I love to do. Like, I couldn't think of a better way to spend my day than sitting here and having a conversation with someone that's of the same mindset and giving resources to other people in hopes to help them become successful. But if you're 30 and younger to 20, let's call it those 10 years, you have a great opportunity here. You're young. You have the ability to jump back from a night. You know, you have that energy. Your body physically can handle more than... You know, I know you're younger than me. I'm talking about people my age that don't have that, you know, bounce back
I'm
after a
losing it
night of
quick, I
drinking.
feel
Right?
like.
No, it does. Once you get close to 30, it changes a lot. And then when you get into your 40s, life is different. The body takes a toll, but the brain opens up so much more. But in 20 to 30, you have this opportunity to work a bartending, a restaurant, an office job, whatever it is, and you have that energy to go home and still put in the effort for more hours on something, so that when you get to 30, you know, you're a lot further on than most people would be.
Yeah.
And it's taking advantage of that time and realizing that you're young and you have the ability to go after more. Don't be complacent.
Yeah.
Don't be happy with just your 5 nights a week bartending and sleeping all day till 2 in the afternoon because you got to work at 4.
Right.
Do something more with your time. And I promise, if you put in that effort during those 10 years, 30 is going to be a lot easier for you.
Yeah.
It's not going to be easy because life is not easy,
Right.
but it'll be easier.
Yeah, you'll have given yourself at least a head start or a fighting chance.
Yeah.
And I mean, that goes for, you know, the people that aren't happy too, which I feel like, especially in the hospitality industry, there's a lot of those who, I mean, I was one of them for maybe half of my hospitality career, was feeling burnt out and, you know, hoping that the big break was coming, you know, and not even really knowing what that was, but just kind of going through the motions every day that I was used to, working 5 days a week, go in at 5 p.m., you get out at like 5 a.m., you sleep until 4 p.m., and you do that over and over and over again. And then on your days off, all you want to do is sleep because you were the social butterfly for the last 5 days. And if you are going through those motions and you aren't happy with what you're doing, you got to realize that, at least in my opinion, I'm not going to tell anyone what they got to do.
Right.
You need to make a change. The only way things change is if you change something, you know, but going through those motions week after week, you can't expect a different outcome if you're putting in the same income, right? You
gotta change something. That's the thing. If you're sitting there, if you're one of those individuals that are sitting there and you want more, you just believe in your heart that there's something bigger that you're supposed to be a part of, then you need to make a shift.
Yeah.
You know, for self-awareness, you know, you have to be aware of who you are and what you're doing and what you want. And once you know that, then you have to try and figure out what are the little mini goals that I can set forward in order to get myself to that changing spot.
Yeah. I think that's a good piece of advice too. Is setting little goals for yourself is like benchmarks, you know.
Yeah.
Even if they're real little goals, you can start super small, just for the sake of getting out of that rut or that routine that you're in that may not be moving you anywhere.
I try to give that advice on our TikTok, where, you know, sometimes we set too big of a goal for ourselves. I'm not saying you can't get it done. I'm just saying sometimes we put the unattainable in front of us and then we get overwhelmed by that, and all of a sudden we get anxiety and then we're like, fuck it, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
So the mini goals is something I try to do for myself. It's like, okay, well, if I do this today. I started out reading books like a year and a half ago, let's call it, right? And I was like, you know what, if I just read 5 pages a day. Then I came across something where it says, if you read 20 pages a day, you'll get this many books in a year. And I was like, fuck, that's awesome. So after doing that mini goal of 5 pages, now I'm like, okay, let's do 20 pages. And that took me like a while. Like I wasn't a fast reader. Now I'm at 40 to 50 pages a day.
Damn, dude, that's amazing.
Yeah. And the time in which that takes me to do it is a lot less than the full 20 pages took me when I started. Yeah. But it's that mini goal that I put out for myself that I wanted to read more. And now I want to read even more. Yeah. Like I feel like I need to accomplish more books, you know?
That's a little bit of a cheat code that I've kind of realized in the gratitude list too, where when I first started writing, I would write like how much money I want to make this year, you know? But I'd be writing this number over and over again, not even knowing all year if I was on track for that, because I don't know how much I need to make per day to make that per year. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then all of a sudden you realize 6 months in, you're not even halfway to your goal, and it's impossible to come through on. So I've really kind of adjusted the way that I analyze that and that I dissect my gratitude list, where now I'll write how much I want to make per year, but I also preface that with how much I'm going to make per day, and those equate to each other, you know? Right. And it feels that much better because the more stuff on that gratitude list that you get to write down and come through on, it's another boost of this shit's working. Yeah. Every day that you knock something off that list, you're like, this shit's working. And so when every day that I have where some days I don't hit the number that I write, you know? Yeah. And I don't beat myself up for that because there's some days where I go over deliver on the number that I write. And I think they balance themselves out. But every day that you hit that, you go, I wrote that this morning and then it happened, you know? And maybe it's a coincidence, maybe it's not, but it makes me feel good.
And that's the end of the day what you want, right?
Yeah. So another thing that I love to say is that the placebo effect, I'm like a huge fan of the placebo effect because I don't really care if the gratitude list or manifestation is actually a real thing, or if it's just all a coincidence and my life has unfolded exactly how it was supposed to by chance. Either way, I don't really care. Right. I'm getting the effects that I want by doing the things that I'm doing. And if it's magic or if it's manifesting in the law of attraction, I don't care. Yeah. You know, same with anything that you apply the placebo effect to. If you're getting the effect you want, what do you care what the reason for it is?
Right. The end of the day is you have more days that you feel happy, less days that you don't. Yeah. Right. And I hope that is why people want to become their own boss. Yeah. Not to show up someone else and not to have a Lambo or a Rari. Yeah, sure. It's so that when you go home at the end of the night, you can say, today was a good day. I feel good about myself. Yeah. That's why I want to do it. I want to do this so that at the end of every day, I don't have to worry about my bills, clearly, but I want to be able to go to bed at night feeling happy. I want to know that I've helped somebody else out in the world get to that level as well. And all the rest of it is just the byproduct of doing, whether it is manifestation, whether it is already planned out for you, just doing it and getting to that point of happiness. I think that's why we're all here, trying to get more happy days than not happy days.
100%.
I want to thank you so much, Pete, for coming today.
Thank you,
It's been an absolute pleasure. We're going to do this multiple times.
Yeah, please.
I'm very fortunate that every guest we have on here is just such lovely individuals, and they're just so smart in what they are that they're doing. And I'm just glad that you've been able to give so much information and advice to our viewers.
Thank you, man. Thanks for the opportunity.
Everyone that's interested in getting a tattoo out there, if you're in the South Florida area, or even if you're not and you want to fly to Florida for a vacation, look up In the Biz Inc.
Yep.
We're going to have all the social, everything will be underneath the video for you to find Pete and JoJo.
Yep.
So, different styles of ink being done there. The shop is amazing. It's up on
North Palm on US 1.
There you go. We'll have all that information down below as well. Once again, everyone, thank you for coming out this week and watching us here on the Life Choices podcast. Don't forget to scroll down and hit subscribe, comment, like, share. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you didn't like. And we will see all of you here next time on the Life Choices podcast. Always remember, it's your move. Much love, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen,
you are now about
The Journey Life Choices podcast.